My name is Bubba Herrick, and I had a near-death experience when I was 19 years old. And that is what I'm here to talk about today. So the year was 2019, and I was playing baseball in my freshman year at Jacksonville University, a Division I school in North Florida. And I was going in for surgery for an elbow injury. The injury is called Tommy John surgery in the baseball world. And my expectation going in was to go in and get my elbow repaired and then return to my life, baseball, get back on the field, hopefully aspire to be a professional. And I went in for surgery, and in my pre-operation meeting, the nurse who was there, she asked me all these questions to ensure my ability to be operated on. And one of which, it didn't really sit right with me. And from the jump, I kind of felt as if my surgery wasn't going to happen for some reason. And the question was, are you allergic to anesthesia? And I didn't know the answer because I had never been under anesthesia. So I told her no. And fast forward to the next day, they assured that I was okay to be operated on. And I'm in the pre-operation room with my surgeon and the team of doctors explaining to me how it's all going to go. So he says, okay, by the time we get from this pre-operation room to the operating room, which was about 15 feet, he said, you'll be under the anesthesia. I'm going to put it in your IV. Surgery will last an hour. You'll be back on your way, and you'll be back on the field within the time frame that we've given you. And I thought to myself, okay, that's what I'm here for. That makes sense. So they put the anesthesia in my IV, and he says, you're going to be out within seconds. So they put it in my IV, and I don't necessarily feel it by the time they told me I was supposed to feel it. They wheeled me into the operating room after putting it into my IV, and I was still awake for some reason. So I didn't know what to think, though. I didn't know what to feel because I hadn't ever been under anesthesia. So I just closed my eyes and tried to doze off and thought to myself, well, maybe it just hasn't hit me yet. So by the time I get to the operating room, the doctors are getting ready to operate on me because they assume that I'm under the anesthesia because I hadn't said anything. So it lasts a few seconds while I'm in the operating room, and they're really close to cutting into me with their tools, and I was still awake. And in the flash of a second, I was just floating above the scene, and I saw myself on the operating table from this above place. My body turned this almost like a bruise-like purple, and then this corpse-like white. And then I watched as the heart rate machine went from beep, 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 beep to beep, and I watched from above as I died on the operating table. And immediately I was shuttled into this review of my life where I saw everything from start to finish. And I witnessed things that I wasn't necessarily proud of. I mean, I saw times where I could have done better. I saw times where I had an opportunity to make my family members know how I feel, in the sense that I could have told my family that I love them or I'm sorry, in instances where I chose not to because I allowed my pride to get in the way. And I watched this all in my life review. I also watched good memories and everything. But after the life review that I was shown, it felt like it lasted forever. It felt like it lasted an eternity. It was cool, the life review was, because I had an ability to be in the memories again as well. So what I mean by that is I could watch them from this like movie-like, panoramic screen, but I could also be in the memories again, experiencing it from everyone's different perspectives. So there was a time where I was a kid and I had an older brother. His name is Sean. He's 4 years older than me. And our dad used to discipline us when we would butt heads, and he would beat us with the belt. And I remember as a kid absolutely despising my dad for it. But in this life review moment, when I experienced it, I could see finally where he was coming from. It was almost as if I could put myself in his shoes to understand why he was doing it. So it was like that for every moment of the life review, though, where I could re-enter and experience it from other people's perspectives. So anyways, following the life review, I couldn't help but feel in my last conscious moments that I wasn't ready to die. I felt afraid of what was next because I didn't live while I had the chance. And I felt regret. I felt anger at myself. I don't know. I didn't feel right dying in that moment. I just wasn't ready for it. And after the life review, though, those thoughts went away because my conscious thoughts, this voice in my head, it didn't exist after the life review. It dissipated. And I was transferred into this place that was just serene and profound, and I was still alive in this place. In fact, I was more alive than I was on earth, except for I just didn't have the voice in my head. Everything in this place was this crystally type blue that I wish I could describe, but obviously words just, they can't do it any justice. And it was almost as if I was viewing the outside world from the perspective of the inside of a diamond. Everything was just extremely shiny, and there were refracted combinations of light of each color of the rainbow that just formulated one universal color. And it was magical. And I was everything, and I was time. And it's so hard to explain. And sometimes I'll get a little bit impatient and frustrated with myself trying to explain it because there's just no way to properly give it justice with words. So I'm in this beautiful place, and it felt like I was there for an eternity. I'm not exactly sure how long I was there, but one of the memories that was shown in my life review just, moments ago was this core memory of mine where I played this beautiful game of basketball with my stepdad, who had passed away 2 years prior to this surgery event that I'm speaking of now. And it was very memorable for me. I was 12 years old, and we just shared this very competitive but loving game of basketball that, I don't know, it just stuck with me because I never really experienced that type of joy and love from a father figure. And in this place that I'm describing, the one that's really hard to describe with words, I see a strange figure appear. And immediately, without words, without any type of verbal communication, he checks me and passes me the basketball. And it was Mike. It was my stepdad who had passed away 2 years prior, the one that I saw in the life review. And we recreated this same exact moment, except for it was happening in real time. I wasn't 12 years old. I was current. I was 19. And neither of us had a body, which was so strange. We were playing basketball telepathic, and we recreated that same moment of the basketball game, and it lasted another eternity. It just felt like it lasted forever. It was just magnificent. It was blissful. It was love. And after the basketball game, he slowly backed away, and his tone slightly changed with me. And it was no longer the bliss and the love. It was more stern, but it was still a form of bliss and love, but it was a stern type. And essentially what he said to me was telepathically, because there was no words, we weren't using words. Essentially what he said to me was, playtime's over. I was sent here for a reason, and so were you. And he essentially explained to me that my time was not done on Earth, and I had a decision to make. He said, I know how you felt after your life review. I know what that regret was like. I know that you were feeling angry, and I know that you were feeling like your time wasn't done. Well, I've been sent here to give you a choice. And then he communicated to me. He said, you can stay here with me in this beautiful, perfect realm for the rest of eternity, or you can go back to Earth and live out your great purpose. So he said, your time's not done. You have a great purpose to serve. And presented me with the choice. I could stay with him or I could go back. And it didn't really feel like I had much of a choice, honestly, because I didn't want to leave this place, but it felt like I had to. And it felt like he was sent there to essentially almost send me back without giving me much of a choice. So I contemplated it, and I knew what I had to do. So in the flash of a second, he disappeared, and I was face to face with myself on the operating table again, just looking down where I saw the doctors inject me with the shot that saved my life. And I woke up on the operating table, and I was punching the doctors at first because how bad I wanted to be back in that other place. So that was in 2019, this near-death experience happened to me. And that's not necessarily where the story ends, though, because the past 5 years of my life, I've been trying to integrate that experience into my life. So what I mean by that is, up until this happened to me, I never had any type of spiritual or religious beliefs at all. I thought with conviction that when you die, everything was black and you cease to exist. And after this has happened to me, I've had to challenge that belief because obviously I can't unsee what I saw. And it's been very challenging because my entire life was built around the identity of me as a baseball player and me with this belief that when you die, everything ceases to exist. So I was living in that way. And what I mean by that is I was living a, quote, secular life where I didn't have any faith or belief in anything greater than myself. I don't know, I was selfish and I was living in that way. So reintegrating after the near-death experience where I saw what I saw and I experienced what I experienced was challenging because I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know, what do you do with something like that? And how do you live with making a decision to re-enter a life full of, famine and war and suffering after experiencing such divine perfection? And I would say for the first 2 years, I tried my best to pretend like it didn't happen at all. And I didn't tell anybody for a long time because I thought they were going to believe me. And the people I did tell, they didn't. It was very few people, probably just my mom and my brother and just a few people, but they didn't know how to take me seriously because I couldn't express it. It was so hard for me to express the depth of the experience to them. So for the first 2 years, I just pretended like it didn't exist, and I returned to baseball. I did end up getting surgery that I was scheduled to get, but I didn't love the game the same. I didn't even want to play anymore. In fact, after I came back, I performed terribly because my heart just wasn't in it. I was told I had a great purpose, and that was just always in the back of my mind every time I showed up to practice and games. It was like, what is this great purpose? I just don't think it's baseball. And after I stopped playing baseball, which was about 2 years after the experience, I was forced to sit with myself and really contemplate, like, why am I here? What is the purpose I was sent back to live out? And I started doing everything I could to get to know myself, the new version of me that has faith in the other side and believes that consciousness lives on when we die. I actually started to embrace that 2 years in. So for the past 3 years of my life, I've been evolving into the new person that I'm supposed to be. And I'd be lying if I said it hasn't come with a lot of challenges because of the fear. There's a lot of fear associated with letting go of who I was, and I'm still working through that, and I don't know if that will ever subside. But, the question I always ask myself is, if I'm not the person I thought I was, then who am I? It's such a unique question because I don't know if there's a finite answer. So for the past 3 years, I started writing and I started developing new habits to embrace the new belief that there is a higher power and there is life after death. And I just started taking more risks, and I've started to do things that actually matter to me and tell the truth more. And I'm doing everything. It's funny, like I've noticed that on a subconscious level, I've started to do everything that I wish I did before I died. And the reason for that is because I want to ensure that the next time I die, I'm ready for it. And I don't want to ever feel that pain or that regret or that anger at myself in my last conscious moments ever again. And I've come to the conclusion that the purpose that I was sent back to live out is simply to ensure that I never feel that type of pain again, especially in my last moments, because what killed me in the last moment was that there was nothing I could do about it. I had all this shame, this fear, this anger, this regret. And in my last moment, there's nothing I could do about it. I just had to die with that. And I wish there were words to describe that feeling as well, because pain and anger and regret, they don't do that feeling any justice. It's miserable. It's sorrow. It's hopeless because there's nothing you can do about it. So over the past 3 years, I've started to develop a way of life that will ensure that I never have to feel that again. And if I can help others do that as well, that's the goal. So I feel like that's the purpose I've been sent back to live out is to live that myself and then to give that same feeling to others, to hopefully help people make sure that they never have to feel that same type of regret or anger ever again. So if this experience has taught me anything, it's that. It is that every day is a gift. First of all, every day is a gift. And I went into that surgery room, and before my surgery, I told my mom, I love you, I'll see you in an hour. And then 15 minutes later, I was dead. So there's no telling when our time is up. There's no telling how it's going to happen. And if we can live with that and keep that in the back of our minds every day, I feel like there's just so much to be grateful for until that time comes. And if there's any piece of advice or anything that this has taught me, it is that. It's to enjoy every moment like it's your last, because it really could be, and we never know when that could happen. Another thing that's taught me is this is not the end. This is not all that there is. In fact, myself and other people that I've met that have had these experiences, most of them will say that that place, whatever that place is to each person, is way more real than here. And if it helps anybody, I can honestly say from my experience that that place is what I believe to be my real home. And this is not all that there is. And there is consciousness after death, in my experience. Yeah, I really appreciate everyone watching this. And if you want to follow along, the links are in the description below. And thanks to NELLA and the other side for allowing me to share this story with everyone. What I've learned and what many other near-death experiencers have learned is incredibly valuable and can help people from all walks of life, regardless of religion or spirituality or faith or belief system. And I hope that everyone will live every day like it's their last, because it very well could be.